Hello everyone, welcome back to the fifth session on surface chemistry. Last class I had explained to you all about the preparation of colloids and also about purification of colloids. Today we shall learn about the properties of colloidal solution. So the first property is Tyndall effect. Have you all wondered why sky looks blue in color? Also, sea water looks blue in color. Have you all observed the tail of a comet? All of this is because of Tyndall effect. Now, what is Tyndall effect? It is the scattering of light by the colloidal particles. So, the colloidal particles will scatter the light. This effect is called as Tyndall effect. And in this Tyndall effect, a bright cone is formed. Okay, the bright cone of light is formed, which is called as Tyndall cone. Now, if we have taken two solutions, one is true solution and the other one is colloidal solution. When light is passed through a true solution, the path of the light cannot be traced. Okay, you cannot see the path of light in the solution. And if we look into the true solution, from the direction of incident light, for example, if it is passed in this direction, from here if you look into a true solution, it will look clear, and in the perpendicularly if you look, it will look dark. Whereas if the light is passed through, okay, a strong beam of light is passed through a colloidal solution, the path of light, okay, the path of the light can be observed, okay, or the path of the light gets illuminated and a cone is formed, which we call it as Tyndall cone. Okay, this is because of Tyndall effect, that is scattering of light. Now, there are two conditions required to show Tyndall effect. That is, first one is the diameter of the dispersed particle and the wavelength of the light should be almost same, or the particle size should not be much smaller than the wavelength of the light which we have used. That is the first condition. The second condition is the refractive indices of the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium should differ greatly in magnitude. Only then we can observe Tyndall effect. In 1903, Zsigmondy used Tyndall effect to set up an apparatus called as ultra microscope. Okay. In this apparatus, there is a source of light which is focused on the colloidal solution taken in the glass vessel. If this is the direction of the source of light, at right angle, see, at right angle in the microscope, when it was observed, he could see there is scattering of light. That is, the light is getting scattered because of the colloidal particles. Okay, and it just looked like bright stars against a dark background. What he could observe? It looked like bright stars against a dark background. That star, what he could see, like star, that is nothing but scattering of light. Using this ultra microscope, we can find out whether a solution particles what are there in a solution is in colloidal dimensions or not. Okay. Also, because only if it is a colloidal particle, then you can see it will look like bright stars against a dark background. If not, true solution particles scattering cannot be observed. Okay. In this method, we cannot tell about the size and shape of the particle. We cannot tell about the size and also the shape of the particle. Next property is Brownian movement. What is Brownian movement? The zigzag movement of colloidal particles is called as Brownian movement. Okay, it was first observed by a British botanist called Robert Brown. Okay, so the particles are continuously moving in a colloidal solution. That zigzag movement we call it as Brownian movement. Okay, now why are the particles moving? That is because the colloidal particles are continuously bombarded with the dispersion medium particles. That is, they are continuously getting bombarded. Who? The colloidal particles are continuously getting bombarded with the dispersion medium particles. That's the reason the colloidal particles will never settle down. Okay, they will never settle down, and stability of the colloidal solution is because of Brownian moment, and this is called as stirring effect. Because of stirring effect, what happens? The colloidal solution particles will never settle down and the colloidal solution becomes very stable. Now, the Brownian moment depends on two factors: the size and viscosity. Okay, if the size of the particle is more, okay, or if the size of the particle increases, the Brownian moment decreases. Okay, the movement of the particles becomes lesser. Okay, and if the viscosity of the dispersion medium or the colloidal solution is more, then Brownian movement again decreases. Okay, so these are the two factors which affect Brownian movement. So the next property is colligative property and color. What is colligative property? A colloidal solution will exhibit lower value of colligative properties as compared to exhibited by the true solution. Now, what is colligative property? The colligative properties depend on number of particles. What is it? It depends on number of particles. Now, for example, I have taken two solutions, okay, which is weighing x grams. Now, this is my true solution and this is my colloidal solution. Okay. Now, we know the colloidal solution particle size is smaller. Okay, so it is having small size, hence the number of particles will be many. Okay, whereas if I take a colloidal solution, the particle size is larger, thus you will have number of particles is lesser. Okay, and I told you colligative property depends on the number of particles. So obviously the colligative property value for a true solution will be higher compared to that of the colloidal solution. Now, what are the different types of colligative properties? Okay, you have elevation of boiling point, depression of freezing point, osmotic pressure, relative lowering of vapor pressure. All of this detail you will be learning in the chapter 2 of physical chemistry solutions. Okay. Next, we will move on to the color of a colloidal solution. Color of the colloidal solution depends on size and nature of particle and also on the wavelength of the light which is used. So, for example, in a colloidal particle, okay, if the size is larger, it will absorb a longer wavelength and it will transmit, okay, a shorter wavelength. So, what is the transmitted light? That is the color of the colloid which we can observe. Also, the color will depend on the observer who is observing from which direction. Okay. For this, I will just take an example and explain. If I have taken a solution Okay, I have taken a colloidal solution. I have taken little water and mixed it with milk. It becomes a colloidal solution because milk is a colloid. If I pass light to the colloidal solution, okay, that is milk plus water which we have. If the observer is observing the reflected light, if they are observing the reflected light, it will look blue color. And if the observer is observing this and he is viewing the transmitted light, it will look red color. Okay. So, how the observer is viewing that also depends on what is the color of the colloid. How does the size matter? For this I shall take an example of a gold sol. Which sol? Gold sol. Okay. Now gold is a multimolecular colloid. When the particles are just forming, okay, when the particle size is smaller, the gold sol will look red color. Okay. As the particle size grows, it will start looking purple color, then it will transform into blue color, and finally it will look golden color. Okay. So, as the size of the colloidal particle grows, the color of the gold sol is continuously changing. It changes from red to purple, purple to blue, and blue to golden. So, this is how the color of the colloidal solution changes when the direction of the observer, how the observer is viewing it, and also depends on the size of the particle. Okay. So, we have completed 4 properties: Tyndall effect, Brownian movement, colligative property, and color of the colloidal solution. Next is charge of the colloidal solution. Now, the colloidal particles, okay, the dispersed phase particles what are there, they have a tendency to adsorb, okay, adsorb negative or positive ions which is there in the dispersion medium. Okay. What do? They have a tendency for preferential adsorption of positive or negative ions. Thus, the colloidal particles will get either positive charge or a negative charge. To understand this, I shall explain with an example, that is, if I take potassium iodide and mix it with silver nitrate, okay, we will get silver iodide salt. Now, the charge on silver iodide completely depends on which electrolyte you have taken in excess. If I take excess of potassium iodide, then you see, if this is my silver iodide colloidal particles, okay, and in the medium we have potassium ions and iodide ions. Potassium is, this is in excess, of course there is nitrate ion also, but then what is in excess? Potassium and iodide ion. So, which is common now? Potassium ion is common or iodide ion is common to silver iodide? Of course iodide, because silver iodide has iodide and iodide is the one which is common. So, the one which is in common, which is in excess, gets adsorbed on the colloid. Okay, fine. Now, if I take excess of silver nitrate, okay, when we are forming potassium iodide and silver nitrate is mixed, excess of silver nitrate is been added, then this is the colloidal particle. In the dispersion medium we have excess of silver ions and nitrate ions. So, which is common to silver iodide? Of course silver particles. So, the silver ions will get adsorbed and it becomes positively charged. So, the adsorbed ion should be the ion which is common for that particular salt. Okay. So, both you can get either positively charged silver iodide or I can get negatively charged silver iodide, depends on what is taken in excess. So, here negatively charged I'll get when potassium iodide is added in excess, and positively charged we get when silver nitrate is added in excess. Okay, I hope you have understood about the charge on the colloidal solution. Next is Helmholtz electric double layer. Now what is this? I told you all there is colloidal particles are charged. They have one layer, adsorbed layer of ions around them, and they will be either positively charged or negatively charged. Now in the dispersion medium there is one more ion which is present, correct? For example, if we have taken, I have silver iodide particles, okay, which is negatively charged because of iodide ions. Also in my solution there is potassium ions as well, correct? I have taken potassium iodide in excess. So of course there is potassium ions which is present in my dispersion medium. Now the negatively charged particle will start attracting this positively charged ion around it to form the second layer. So what happens? There is a second layer which is formed. Okay, so if this is silver iodide which was negatively charged, one more layer of potassium ions will be around it. So the first layer is called as the fixed layer and the second layer is called as the diffused layer. Okay, and this two layers, it is called as Helmholtz electric double layer. It is called as Helmholtz electrical double layer. Okay, so that is about the double layer. Going forward, here you can see how positively charged or negatively charged colloid will now attract the other particles, which is the counter particles, from the dispersion medium to form the second layer. Correct? You can see here colloidal particle which was positively charged has one more layer of negative ions around it. Here the colloid which is negatively charged has a second layer of positive ions around it. Now between these two layers there is a potential developed which we call it as zeta potential or electrokinetic potential. There is a potential difference between the fixed layer and the diffuse layer of opposite charge is called as electrokinetic potential or zeta potential. Okay, so this is about Helmholtz double layer and zeta potential. Next is electrophoresis. For this I shall explain with this diagram. There is a U tube which we have taken. I have filled it with the colloidal solution in which the colloidal particles are negatively charged. Okay, there are two electrodes which is dipped into it. One is anode, one is cathode. When electricity passes through this, what happens is the negatively charged colloidal particles starts getting attracted towards the cathode. Cathode is positive, hence all the negative particles will start going towards the cathode and they will get discharged at the cathode there. Okay, this movement of the colloidal particles when electric field is applied, we call it as electrophoresis. The movement of colloidal particles under applied electric potential is called as electrophoresis. If the colloidal particle is positively charged, it will move towards anode. If it is negatively charged, it will move towards cathode. Now there is one more concept called as electroosmosis. Okay. Now for example, here I have placed a semi-permeable membrane. Okay. We know through semi-permeable membrane, colloidal particles cannot move. Correct? It cannot move. So what happens here? All the colloidal particles will be stuck at one end because it cannot move. For example, it is negatively charged colloid, it will want to go towards cathode. So whatever is in this end, it will move off, the others will remain as it is. Now because the colloidal particles cannot pass through this, the dispersion medium will start moving towards the cathode. What happens? The dispersion medium, these are dispersed phase, particles are dispersed phase. Dispersed phase can't pass through the semi-permeable membrane. So the dispersion medium what is there, they will start passing through and moving towards the cathode. This movement of dispersion medium under the influence of applied potential is known as electroosmosis. Okay. So that is about electrophoresis. To understand better, you can see here the particles will start, of the colloidal particles will start moving. If these are positively charged, then it will move towards the negative electrode. Okay. If it is negatively charged, then it will move towards the positive electrode. This is called as electrophoresis. Okay. I hope you have understood about all the properties what we have learned today. Next class we learn about protection of colloids, emulsion and application of colloids. So thank you. Stay focused. Stay tuned.